Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Tales of a TC. I'd like to say hello to my beautiful co-host, Ella Ray.
Miss Amanda Spinney, thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So today you have a hotbed issue that you want to discuss. Go ahead.
Yes, so recently, this past few weeks, but I've been seeing it more often now. It's become very apparent that we need to start vetting our buyers on our wholesale deals and people that are looking to borrow money from us. It's something where I think as a community we just want to help each other, and we're not really looking at who these people are. And I actually found out that somebody who I was in a potential dealing with was actually marketing out properties for loans, and they were low equity properties. Like literally the amount of the mortgage balance was the amount that they bought the property for. And they brought people to the table with like 60, $70,000 over leveraging the property. And then I'm like, who is this person? And I go and I check. And it turns out that they were involved in cases against them for millions of dollars, that they defrauded someone. And I was like, this is wonderful. Like, how many people are we lending to that have histories like this that we're not looking into because we're so in the honeymoon phase, right, with everyone that we meet in these communities. And it was something that I thought was really important that we should touch upon and talk about.
100%. And I think that's something that a lot of people should realize. And I know that from personal experience, sometimes people that have the worst intentions are actually the most charismatic.
Right.
You
That's the
know,
scary part, right?
and so you're going to meet these people and they're going to have a good story to tell. And like, if everything sounds way too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
And so
100%.
I think that not only do we do due diligence on our deals, but we do due diligence on our people.
Right. Right. Because this person has like a whole operation of like bird doggers and wholesalers who are bringing him deals. And I was looking at it and I was like, you want to, oh, and he wanted to put a pad split in an HOA community. And I was like, yeah, I get the whole master lease thing, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that the HOA is not going to fight back against it. And at the end of the day, you have to look at the most viable uses for the property and take into account everything. The PITI on it. Can it be a long-term rental? If not, like what can I do with it? Is there an HOA? Well, maybe I'll wrap it. Do I have access to these buyers? Let me vet them. But you don't go putting like pad splits and co-livings and HOAs when there's rental restrictions in place, because people are not going to take to that kindly. Like if the neighbors start complaining that there's like 10 cars outside, this one house, how long lived is that co-living going to be? And now you've gotten into this property, you've borrowed $70,000 on a property that had no equity to begin with, and you can't use it as a co-living. I mean, and I've seen it happen time and time again. And the sellers are the ones who end up paying, because then they get foreclosed on and they have no means by which to get themselves out of their problem that they weren't, they didn't ask for. So I think it's definitely important to really just vet these people. And when you have feelings that are not the warm and fuzzies, look into, who it is that you're talking about. And even when you have the warm and fuzzies, that doesn't mean, like you said, they could be very charismatic. That does not mean that you don't do your due diligence. I asked them if they had money ready to go for this deal, and they were like, "Oh yeah, funds are in escrow." And they wanted to change the title company, and they wanted to do like all this other stuff. And when I started mentioning, mirror wraps, and they're like, "Oh well, I'll talk to my partners about this later." And I'm like, "What do you mean talk to your partners about this later?" Like, there are non-negotiables in these deals. They're already very risky in some ways. If you're not doing the most to protect everyone involved, you're just asking for problems.
100%. And I think that there needs to be, as investors, we should have two goals, and that should be to take care of everybody within the deal, right? And then to take care of our communities. And so, what's really driving me a little bit crazy is that I do see people trying to buy these co living properties or anything like that. And then, they want to put 9 bedrooms or something like that in there. And I've seen this firsthand on a few teams that bought co-living properties. They did that. The neighbors got really angry. And then they went to the county, and the county came and revoked their ability to do that.
Right.
We have to
Right.
be good neighbors. Like the properties have to make sense. If you have a large lot and all of it kind of makes sense, great. But you can't take where houses are on top of each other and take that 3-bedroom house, make it a 7-bedroom house, and think that everybody's going to get along with this.
Right. And and I've seen that too. And it's actually really scary. I just, for one, if I start seeing something like that and I realize that the person is a bad actor, I don't want anything to do with them. And I think a lot of times, and I don't care if there's a TC fee, if there's a wholesale fee, if there whatever kind of money there is involved in this, it's not enough for me to say, okay, well, I know that this is a bad deal, but I'm gonna sell it anyway. Or I know this is a bad deal, but I'm gonna TC it anyway. And I think a lot of people don't really look at it from that perspective and are just like, well, it's a $20,000 payday for me, so I'm just going to sell it and let the sellers take care of whatever happens later on. That's how all of this litigation starts, and that's how all of these regulations come about, because people don't really try to protect the sellers. And I think if we're going to keep on wholesaling and we're going to keep on, doing these creative finance transactions, we need to really be prudent about what we put in place, and making sure that the people that we're dealing with are responsible and are doing the right thing by the sellers, not just by their pockets.
And their lenders.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I see so often that lenders are put in a second lien position. They don't understand what that really means. There's just so much confusion. And like you said, the return sounds good. Going back to, if it's too good to be true, it's probably not true.
Right.
And there's ways to overcome, let's say you do buy a low equity property, which is why most of us buy sub twos.
Sure.
Those properties need to be, or those lenders need to be cross collateralized, or there needs to be additional protections for the lender. And by all that is holy, please get a personal guarantee.
Right. Right. Because what good is it, oh, you get a 40% cash on cash. What good is that if you end up having to foreclose and the first position lien holder, Penny Mac or Fannie Mae or whomever, they're getting even less than what they're owed. If you think that you're getting your principal back, you are sadly mistaken. That's a $70,000 mistake, 60, whatever it is. It's a hard mistake to learn, and I think people just need to be more vigilant in terms of, does this deal make sense? Talk to a TC, talk to somebody who's an active lender, people like Abraham Gray, Alexis Morgan, like people who are out there lending, for a living, and can tell you the things that you need to watch out for. Talk to TCs like Amanda, myself. There's a ton of other TCs in the community that deal with private money lending transactions that can tell you, hey, this is a red flag. You might want to ask about this, or how about taking a look at this, or did you ask this? The things that, you don't know, you don't know.
100%. Just keep everybody safe. Watch out for those bad actors. Because unfortunately, with there being such a profit amount possible in real estate, there's a lot of times people are scamming these lenders. There's been incidents where the money never even goes towards the house or towards the property. Like, they're buying so many properties that they're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Paul, exactly. And that's another thing too. Right.
Yeah.
Right, because they're walking away from these closing tables where the seller's getting $0 because there is no equity whatsoever. How does the buyer walk away with 30, 40, 50, $60,000? Doesn't make sense. So then and you're right, it becomes like this, I don't know, I don't want to call it a Ponzi scheme, but you're right, robbing Peter to pay Paul. They're taking those proceeds and they're paying off previous lenders. And everything seems like it's going great. And these lenders are like, yeah, I'm getting paid on time. But what they're doing is they're buying back to back to back to back to keep on funding. And, that's problematic. And that's not to say, like, of course, that's what everybody's doing. I think if you're working with somebody who has a really good reputation and has integrity and, is doing right by their lenders, okay, fine, I get it. But not everybody is doing that. And the money is enticing. Why wouldn't you want a $60,000 payday every week?
Right.
But that's not how this works. That's very short lived, and a lot of people will end up in really big problems with that.
They will.
So, there's a lot more to it than people realize.
Yes.
A
And these
lot.
deals can become so intricate. I really encourage everybody to reach out to us, even if you just have questions.
Right.
We're willing to jump on a Zoom to answer any questions, just to make sure that everything is going well, or to share our attorney references, or we just have so many resources. And then if I don't have it, I know that my TC tribe does. Like, there's nothing that we can't figure out.
Right. Exactly. So better to be safe than crying over your money later, right?
Yes. And if you're going to get involved and you're going to start entering this space, I really encourage that you come by our workshop. We're going to be putting this information out. We're really excited for this. But we're going to teach all things on safety and creative transactions.
Yes. We will be having that workshop in Florida, Central Florida. So look out for that. It'll be probably late fall. So we'll let you guys know for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Ella, thank you so much for your time today.
Yes, thank you. It's always a pleasure seeing you, Amanda. So let's
You
keep
too.
on fighting the good fight.
That's right.